Introduction: The Hidden Journey Beyond. This story isn't just a made-up tale meant to entertain, like the kind you might hear around a campfire or read in a fantasy novel. It's something deeper, richer, and more meaningful. It's made of lessons, hidden inside comparisons and examples that help us understand life's biggest questions. These are the kinds of questions people have asked for centuries. What happens after we die? Is there more to life than what we see? Is there true justice somewhere beyond this world? Some of these answers can't be found just by looking around or asking directly. They're not always easy to explain with facts or numbers. Instead, they live inside stories and examples that act like mirrors, showing us reflections of greater truths. These reflections help us understand things that are beyond what we can see or touch. Think of it like sunlight passing through a crystal. If you look at the sunlight by itself, it seems simple and clear. But when it shines through the crystal, it breaks into many colors, a rainbow that you couldn't see before. That's what this story does. Through the journey of Zach and Alicia, these everyday moments and scenes break apart a difficult idea, resurrection, and reveal its many parts. They show us that resurrection is not some far-off fantasy, but a real and powerful truth that's all around us, waiting to be noticed. Zach and Alicia's adventure isn't just a walk across unusual lands. It's more than that. It's a journey into the human heart and mind. Through their conversations and experiences, we explore the things every person longs for: real justice, lasting beauty, and a sense of meaning that doesn't disappear when life gets hard. Even when we're not thinking about it directly, most of us desire for eternity. Along their path, each pause, every question they ask, and each answer they uncover acts as a single thread in a grand, beautiful design. Little by little, this design takes shape, revealing a broader understanding where resurrection seems not just plausible but a natural consequence. This isn't a belief they're asked to accept without question. Rather, it unfolds from their engagement with the world around them, the rhythms of nature, the lessons of history, their own moral compass, and a truth they can arrive at through thoughtful consideration. This journey invites us to think, feel, and reflect. It encourages us not to separate reason from belief, but to let them work together. It shows that faith isn't just about tradition, it can also be the natural result of thinking deeply about life, the world, and the incredible signs that surround us every day. So, as we follow Zach and Alicia through their adventure, let's keep our eyes open, our minds curious, and our hearts ready. Because what you're about to read isn't just a story. It's a guide. It's a way to understand something that has puzzled people for ages, the truth about what lies beyond this life, and why it matters so much right now. Chapter 1: The Unseen Sovereign and His Silent Dominion. Once upon a time, Zach and Alicia were traveling to a place as beautiful as paradise, a land radiant with colors, teeming with quiet life, and humming with a kind of peace that made you feel both insignificant and deeply loved. This land, though fictional, was a reflection of our own world, an allegory for the deeper truths of existence. As they explored, something odd began to unsettle them. Every house, every apartment, every shop they passed had its doors left wide open. Not a soul seemed concerned about theft or disorder. The sun steadily climbed the sky, casting its golden light over the wide open land like a monarch ascending its throne. The air shimmered faintly with warmth. The path under their feet was made of time-worn, uneven stones. On either side lay rolling fields that looked like patchwork quilts stitched from green, amber, and gold. There were orchards abundant with fruits of every kind, their branches bowing under the weight of their own generosity. Towering above the landscape were colossal palaces, their spires glinting in the light. Grand gates stood open in welcome, yet strangely no guards or caretakers were in sight. Money and valuable things were just left out in the public squares, like nobody owned them. Driven by a rebellious nature, Zach consistently defied rules, seeing them as pointless restrictions on his freedom. This impulsivity and disregard for consequences, coupled with a lack of moral restraint, repeatedly led him toward dangerous choices. His self-centered pursuit of immediate satisfaction ultimately plunged him into the destructive chaos of war, a direct result of his rejection of order. Zach, being the kind of person he was, reached out and just took whatever he wanted. He would either straight up steal it or just grab it by force. He followed every little selfish desire he had, and did all sorts of mean and unfair things, as well as things that were just plain wrong. Surprisingly, the people around didn't really try to stop him or say anything much. "Hey Zach, what are you doing? You're going to get yourself into serious trouble, and you're going to get me in trouble too, just by being with you. All these things we see around us belong to the government, or the state. It's like public property. The people who live here, with their families, are like soldiers or people who work for the government in different jobs. That's probably why they're not immediately jumping in to stop you. But trust me, the rules are very strict. The person in charge, like a king or a president, someone with ultimate power, has ways of knowing what's happening everywhere, and there are people working for them in every corner of this land. You need to go quickly and beg for forgiveness before it's too late." But Zach, being stubborn and not really thinking things through, just kept going. He looked around at all the fancy stuff that was just sitting there and thought out loud, "Wow, this is a really weird place. There are so many incredibly valuable things just out in the open, but it's like nobody actually owns them completely, and there's no obvious authority making sure nobody steals them. It's almost as if the person in charge of this whole world has just left and doesn't care anymore, like everything is just up to chance, and anyone can take whatever they want." Alicia, who always seemed to be thinking deeply, had a different perspective. She was running her fingers thoughtfully over the patterned cover of the notebook he always carried with him, and said, "Or maybe, Zach, the way this place is run is happening on a level that we can't immediately see or understand. What looks like total freedom, like there are no rules at all, might actually be a very carefully planned and organized system. It could be a quiet kind of control that we don't notice just by looking at the surface, something hidden from people who only judge things by how they appear. Could such an incredibly complex and organized system exist without an owner or manager?" Zach laughed and tossed a gold coin into the air. "What order? There's no authority here. It's all ownerless. I mean, if someone wanted to stop me, wouldn't they have done it already?" Alicia shook her head, her hand running along the embossed leather of the notebook she always carried. "You're missing it. These people aren't careless, they're trusting. This land may seem abandoned by law, but it could just be upheld by laws higher than we understand. A hidden sovereign may be governing everything from beyond sight." Zach just scoffed, a bit of a mocking tone in his voice. "Unless I actually see this invisible king of yours with my own eyes, this phantom ruler you keep talking about, I'm going to stay a skeptic. Where's the real proof, the undeniable evidence, not just your philosophical ideas?" He then repeated his earlier thought, "No, this stuff isn't really owned by the government. Perhaps they're like unclaimed, ownerless things that just appeared on their own. Everyone can use it however they want. I don't see any good reason why we shouldn't just take advantage of all these nice things. I'm not going to believe there's some powerful ruler, unless I see them myself." And then he started saying a lot of complicated, philosophical-sounding things that didn't really make much sense in the real world. "So you think all of this, the harmony, the richness, the structure, just happened on its own?" Alicia asked gently. He shrugged. "Why not? Maybe it's just one big coincidence. Maybe people here just don't care." Alicia turned to Zach, her eyes showing a patient kind of wisdom. "Think about this, Zach. Can a letter that's really well written, full of purpose and meaning, just appear out of nowhere without someone actually writing it and having a message in mind? If a tiny needle can't exist without someone making it, can a village that's well organized and running smoothly do that, without a mayor or someone in charge guiding things? Can a fair law last and be respected and obeyed, without someone making that law and setting down its rules? So then, how can this amazing and huge land, so incredibly detailed in its design, so full of incredible things both big and small, exist without a supreme ruler, someone who is wise and incredibly powerful, a true sovereign?" Alicia's voice became deeper and more certain as she continued, "Look again, Zach, but don't just look with your physical eyes. Try to use your brain, and understand things on a deeper level. This isn't just a messy, chaotic free-for-all. It looks like a grand palace where you don't see any guards, but you can almost feel that there's an unspoken command in the air, a natural order to things. Justice, even if we can't see who's in charge of it right now, has been set up. And the time will definitely come when everything will be judged perfectly and completely, and everyone will be held accountable. Alicia's voice took on a quiet firmness. Would you say the same about a beautiful song? That it just played itself into existence? Or a poem that wrote itself with no hand or mind behind it? Before Zack could answer, the air was suddenly pierced by a sound unlike any other they'd heard that day, a sharp metallic screech followed by the gut-wrenching crunch of impact. They turned in unison. Not far ahead, two cars had collided. One had been speeding through the crossing, the other had tried to swerve. Glass sparkled like fallen stars across the ground. Smoke curled into the sky. Without thinking, Zack bolted. His breath grew ragged as he reached the wreck. A woman was trapped in the passenger seat, her forehead bleeding, her eyes fluttering. "Hang in there," he said, struggling to open the door. His hands, now bloodied from shattered glass, trembled. Fear, raw, electric, unfamiliar, gripped him. Alicia was close behind, already calling emergency services with a calm urgency. Sirens wailed in the distance. Within minutes, medics arrived. The scene turned clinical, precise, stretchers unfolded, vitals checked, wounds cleaned. The injured were loaded into ambulances, their fates uncertain. Zack stepped back, shaken. She could have died, right in front of me. Alicia put a hand on his shoulder. Life is that fragile, Zack. One breath separates us from eternity. And still we act like we're untouchable. They stood together in the middle of the road, surrounded by sirens, blood, and silence, as Zack's eyes began to truly see, for the first time perhaps, the quiet power of the unseen order Alicia had spoken of. His fingers, now clenched at his sides, opened slowly. The stolen pendant slipped from his palm and landed with a soft clink on the pavement. The journey, it seemed, had only just begun. Chapter 2: The Waiting Courtroom of Forever Justice. The sky had dulled to a pale gray by the time Zack and Alicia arrived at the hospital. A soft breeze swayed the trees outside, but inside everything felt still and sterile. The beeping of machines, the faint rustling of paper, the clipped footsteps of nurses, it all formed a cold symphony that made Zack feel out of place. His mind was still haunted by the image of the injured woman's eyes, and the smear of blood on his hands. Alicia, calm but alert, led the way to the reception desk, explaining that they had followed the ambulances from the scene of the crash. A nurse nodded gravely and asked them to wait. They sat in stiff plastic chairs beneath fluorescent lights that flickered intermittently, casting odd shadows on the linoleum floor. Zack leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. "This can't be how it ends for her." "For any of them," he muttered. His voice carried a weight it had never held before. Alicia glanced at him. "This accident isn't just a random event. It's a reminder of how fragile life is, and how close the unseen world really is." Moments later, the doctor appeared, his scrub stained, his expression somber. He walked up to them slowly. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "One of the passengers didn't make it. Massive internal injuries. We did everything we could." Zack's heart dropped. The doctor's voice seemed to echo in a hollow chamber. He felt as if the room was tilting. "How could this happen so suddenly?" he whispered. Alicia's voice was gentle. "Life and death are closer than we imagine. Every breath we take is a gift, not a guarantee. We have to live with that knowledge, not in fear but on purpose." They walked out of the hospital in silence. The air outside was heavier now, as if morning. The street lights flickered one by one as the sun dipped behind distant hills. They moved almost instinctively toward the graveyard. As they passed through the iron gates, the stillness deepened. Long shadows stretched across the stone path. The scent of damp earth and cut grass filled their noses. Owls called in the distance, and somewhere, a mourner cried softly into the sleeve of their coat. Zack stopped beside a fresh grave. He stared at the mound of dirt, its edges raw and unsettled. "What happens after we die, Alicia?" he asked, his voice cracking.
Is it just this?
Dirt and silence. Alicia knelt and traced a fingertip along the engraved name of the headstone.
No, she said firmly.
Death is a doorway, not a dead end. This life is the test. What comes next is the judgment. The real existence begins there, where justice is final and eternal. Zack looked up at the sky now scattered with stars.
But how can we be sure?
Look at everything around you, Alicia said, rising. Her hand gestured to the trees, the stars, the careful order of the natural world.
Nothing here is accidental.
The stars follow their courses. The heart beats to a rhythm coded into it before birth. If such harmony exists in nature, how could human fate be left to chaos?
Then why suffering?
Why do good people lose and bad ones win? Zack asked, bitter. Alicia was quiet for a moment. Then she replied, because suffering refines us. It teaches us gratitude, humility and strength. Those who suffer and still choose kindness, they are shining examples. Their reward is not always in this life.
But justice isn't denied, it's just delayed.
Zack's brows furrowed. And the ones who never face consequences?
Will, Alicia answered.
In the eternal courtroom. There's no bribery, no escape, no loopholes. Every action, every intention will be known. This life is the waiting room. Zack closed his eyes. A strange clarity was dawning. Everything feels connected. It is, Alicia said, her voice quiet and firm. The justice you long for, it's not missing.
It's simply waiting.
They lingered in the graveyard a while longer, then continued on foot. The road curved through a valley cloaked in twilight. Eventually, they reached a structure that made them both stop. It stood alone in a field of soft grass, glowing faintly in the moonlight. It looked like a courthouse, but not of any earthly design. Its golden green walls shimmered like they were alive. The pillars were vast and carved with images that seemed to change when viewed from different angles: scales, eyes, stars, flames. The entrance gaped open like a silent invitation. Zack swallowed hard. This is it. The place where justice is done. Alicia nodded.
Not yet.
This is just the front room. The real courtroom lies beyond the veil of this world, where time doesn't tick and truth is fully seen. But even this place reminds us, judgment is real and it's coming. Zack's eyes scanned the carvings.
It's so quiet.
Too quiet. Because the trial hasn't started, Alicia said.
But make no mistake.
Everyone will appear here. Not one story will go unheard. Zack stood in reverent silence, his earlier skepticism chipped away by pain, truth and awe. For the first time in his life, he didn't argue. He simply listened. And somewhere in that listening, he began to believe. Zack and Alicia's path led them into a quiet, peaceful valley filled with soft grass and trees that swayed gently in the wind. Everything looked alive, but strangely still. In the middle of this green valley stood a huge and magnificent building, like something out of a dream. It looked like a courthouse, but not the kind you'd see in a regular city. Its walls were made of glowing green and gold, and its architecture was breathtaking. The pillars were tall and strong, the entrance wide and inviting, but there was not a single sound. No footsteps, no voices, not even a bird. Just silence. Zack stopped walking and stared at the building. The silence around it made him uneasy.
This is it, he said, his voice echoing in the still air.
Is it a big deal? The place where all the justice happens? There's nothing going on here. No trials. No judges. No one is crying out for fairness. Where's all the justice you've been talking about? What about the horrible stuff people get away with in the world? Isn't someone supposed to be held accountable? Alicia walked slowly toward the entrance, running her hand over the carvings etched into the stone, symbols and images that seemed ancient and meaningful. He turned and replied calmly, "It's not happening yet, Zack. This is just the entrance, like the front room before the real court begins. The ultimate courtroom, the one where every wrong is judged and every right is rewarded, is not in this world. It's beyond the short life we live on Earth. It exists in a realm where time doesn't work the way we know it. In that place, everything is seen clearly, and nothing is overlooked. The fact that this building even exists, with its perfect balance and meaningful design, proves that a final judgment must be waiting. Zack looked unsure.
But how does that help the people suffering now?
He asked. I've seen so many good people go through pain, poverty, and injustice. And the worst part? Some of the most selfish and cruel people live in luxury. They lie, cheat, and hurt others, and no one seems to stop them. They die without ever being punished. Meanwhile, the kind, honest people suffer in silence.
It doesn't seem fair.
Alicia nodded thoughtfully. I know, she said.
It hurts to watch.
But think about this for a second. If everything ended the moment people died, if the cruel and the kind both ended up the same with no difference, then wouldn't that make life totally meaningless? If evil people win and good people lose and nothing is ever set right, what's the point of trying to be good? Zack didn't answer. He looked down, kicking a small stone with his boot. Alicia continued, her voice stronger now.
That's the exact reason there has to be another life after this one.
There has to be a place where true justice happens. A place where people are held responsible for what they've done, good or bad. This world is just the beginning of the story. In fact, it's like the first chapter in a long book. And honestly, it's a messy chapter. But the ending, the real ending, comes later. But the true ending is yet to come. A final judgment where every question finds its answer and every injustice is made right. Zack looked up slowly.
But why would someone suffer in the first place?
Why would a good person be born poor or disabled, while someone else is born rich and healthy? That doesn't seem fair either. Alicia nodded again.
That's a good question. But let me ask you something. Do you think you've ever taken something for granted?
Of course, Zack replied. Who hasn't?
Right, Alicia said.
Now imagine a person who complains about having a sore arm, and then meets someone who has no arm at all. That moment changes how they see their own situation. Suddenly, they feel grateful instead of upset. That's the power of perspective. When people compare their lives only to those who have more, they feel disappointed. But when they look at those who have less, they start to see how blessed they really are. Imagine someone who was brought from non-existence into life and gifted with free will. If that person becomes fixated on comparing how much or how little they have of this world's temporary things, rather than focusing on the real purpose of life, how are they any different from a student who, during an exam, wastes all their time comparing their pencil, eraser, and desk to those of other students instead of answering the questions? Both lose sight of what truly matters, and squander the time and opportunity they've been given. He paused, then added, no one chooses to be born rich or poor, healthy or sick. But every condition we're given is part of a bigger plan. Some people are tested with comfort and wealth. Will they become selfish or thankful? Others are tested with hardship. Will they stay patient, hopeful, and kind even when life is hard? Zack crossed his arms.
But still, it doesn't seem equal.
Life on Earth isn't meant to be perfectly equal, Alicia said gently.
It's a test.
Think about it like school. Some people get harder questions than others, but that doesn't mean the teacher is unfair. In the end, everyone's work is graded fairly, based on their effort and attitude, not just their situation. In the same way, what really matters isn't who had the easiest life, but who lived it with purpose, patience, and gratitude. Zack didn't say anything, but he was clearly thinking hard. And remember, Alicia added, a rich person who wastes their life chasing pleasure might lose everything in the next world. But a poor person who stays patient and faithful might gain eternal happiness. This life is temporary, but the next life is forever. What really matters is the eternal outcome. He looked up at the sky and said, look at the universe, at nature, at the stars, at how everything follows rules and order. Science itself shows us that this world is built on balance, beauty, and precision.
But people often miss it.
They focus on small, painful events and forget the big picture. They forget that this world is part of something much bigger. Zack sighed, his voice softer now. So you're saying that the unfairness we see isn't proof against justice, but actually a sign that a greater justice must be waiting somewhere else?
Exactly,
Elisha said, his eyes lighting up. The fact that things seem unfair now is one of the strongest clues that this life isn't the whole story. There has to be a final day where every person, every action, every intention is judged. There has to be a place where real justice happens, where the good are rewarded and the evil are held accountable. As we witness the magnificent creation and flawless order of everything in the universe, from the precision of the stars to the balance in nature, can we truly believe that the most essential principle of all, justice, would be left undone? Is it even possible that a universe so meticulously crafted would fail to uphold justice, the very foundation of meaning and morality? Otherwise, the whole system would collapse into nonsense. But it doesn't. It holds together. And that's because a final, perfect justice is still coming. Zack stood still for a long moment, looking at the courthouse again. This time, he saw it differently. It wasn't just a big empty building, it was a sign, a promise. The silence wasn't lifeless, it was waiting. It was the calm before something real and powerful. A thought began to settle in Zack's mind, not fully formed yet but alive, like a tiny seed planted deep in the soil. Maybe the world wasn't as random as he thought. Maybe there was something beyond it all, something fair and right. He didn't say anything out loud, but his eyes said enough. He was starting to wonder, and to believe. Chapter 3, The Living Web of a Greater Purpose. Zack and Elisha continued walking, their steps slower now, deliberate, as though each footfall carried the weight of all they had just witnessed. They crossed a ridge, and as they descended the other side, the world opened into something astonishing. Spread before them was a garden that didn't seem real. It wasn't manicured like a palace courtyard, nor wild like a forest. It was something in between, a living canvas. Petals shimmered in every hue imaginable, catching the light and scattering it like tiny stained glass windows. Vines curled playfully along mossy stones, and streams trickled with a silver clarity that seemed to whisper instead of babble. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and ripe fruit. A warm breeze caressed their faces, carrying with it the low hum of life itself. Birds chirped rhythmically like a symphony rehearsed by an unseen conductor. Bees darted from blossom to blossom, wings ablur, their tiny bodies dusted in golden pollen. Even the insects, often ignored or shooed away in other places, moved here with a kind of reverence, as if aware they were part of something sacred. Zack took it all in, stunned.
It's like nature's speaking, but I can't quite understand the language.
Elisha smiled.
That's because it's not meant for your ears.
It's meant for your soul. Just beyond the garden, a grapevine clings to its trellis. Dry and lifeless through the winter, its roots absorb the murky soil beneath. Yet by summer it offers sweet, glistening grapes, as if alchemy had taken place underground. Mud becomes sugar. Dirt becomes delight. For whom, if not for us? Beneath our feet, trees share the same soil, drink the same water and bask under the same sun. Yet one produces lemons sour and sharp. Another gives figs soft and sweet. A third bears bitter olives. Their roots may even touch, but the fruit they yield is entirely different. How does unthinking soil deliver such diversity, such precision, such taste? And we humans, what effort did we make to deserve the perfect balance of air, the precise mixture of gases tailored to our lungs? Or the water that springs from hidden reservoirs and clouds, quenching thirst and sustaining life? What hand prepared the foods that ripen by season, filled with the very nutrients our bodies require? Even the setting of this very moment, the warmth of the sun not too close to burn us nor too far to freeze us, the clouds that travel like silent couriers delivering rain, the trees that shelter and feed while cleansing the air, these are not random blessings. They are signs. They speak to a design more profound than mere biology. A system more compassionate than cold logic. A generosity that expects no return. If the honeybee, the grapevine, the tree, the air, the cloud, and the sun perform their roles with such silent wisdom, can we really believe that justice, the highest order of all, would be neglected in such a system? Can a universe so meticulous in every detail overlook the moral balance that gives life its meaning? Surely not, these are not just elements of nature. They are witnesses to order, to care, to purpose. Everywhere Zach looked, something was growing, flying, crawling, blooming, or moving with purpose. Trees stood tall, their branches heavy with perfectly ripened fruit, ready to feed whatever creature needed it. Nothing seemed random. It all looked like it was part of a carefully organized system, like every part of this place knew exactly what it was supposed to do. Alicia stopped and spread her arms wide, motioning toward everything around them. "Look closely, Zach," she said. "Really look. Do you notice anything about how everything moves and works together?" Zach squinted and scanned the garden again.
"Yeah, it's definitely alive," he admitted. "It feels like everything is doing something important. But so what?"
Alicia smiled gently.
"That's exactly it.
Every creature here, from the tiniest ant to the tallest tree, acts like it has a purpose built into it. The bee doesn't randomly fly around. It finds flowers, collects pollen, and helps the plants grow by spreading that pollen. The spider doesn't just spin any kind of web, it builds a perfect geometric trap that keeps it alive. Even sunflowers," he said, pointing to a patch of tall yellow blossoms, "move their heads to follow the sun across the sky so they can absorb more energy and grow stronger." Zach watched as one of the bees landed on a flower, then buzzed off again. "Okay," he said slowly, "but isn't it just instinct?"
I mean, they don't think about it.
"They just do it." "Exactly," Alicia replied. "And isn't that kind of amazing? They don't go to school or read a book to learn how to do any of this. It's like they were programmed from the beginning. Something or someone gave them their job and the ability to do it without ever having to be told." Zach raised an eyebrow.
"So you're saying someone's behind it all?"
"I'm saying, how could this entire garden, this perfectly working system filled with life, color, and function, just exist on its own? Can something this organized and detailed come from nothing? Can it really be ownerless?" Zach looked around again. Everything still moved as it had before, but now it felt different. It didn't just feel alive, it felt guided. Alicia continued, "Look around at all this wealth, fresh fruit, flowing water, clean air, colors, sounds, scents. And it all arrives like clockwork, like invisible trains bringing new gifts to this land every hour.
But where does it all come from?
Who organizes the delivery of so much good? It's as if someone is constantly sending blessings from the unseen world, delivering food, shelter, beauty, and life itself. Would you say those blessings arrive with no sender?
That they just happen?"
Zach stayed quiet. He didn't have an answer. "And more than that," Alicia went on, "you'll see signs and symbols everywhere in this garden, like royal stamps on fruit, like signatures in the details of flowers, like official flags waving from the tops of trees. These aren't random. These are marks of ownership. They're signs that say, this is created, cared for, and filled with purpose." Zach ran his fingers through some tall grass, watching a line of ants move across the ground like tiny soldiers on a mission. "But even if all of this has a purpose now," Zach said after a while, "what happens in the end? Everything still dies. The flowers wilt, the bees get old, the fruit falls and rots. If it all ends in death anyway, then what's the point? What's the value in all this hard work, this beauty, this careful design, if it just ends in dirt?" Alicia looked at Zach with a calm, knowing expression. "I understand that question," he said. "And here's the thing, it's true that living things break down, that their bodies return to the earth. But their purpose doesn't die just because their bodies do. The meaning behind them doesn't disappear just because their time is over. Think about a play. The curtain falls, the credits roll, but does that mean the story had no meaning?"
"No," Zach admitted. "The story still meant something."
"Exactly," Alicia said. "This garden, this world, it's like the first part of a story. And the careful design we see in the smallest bug or the largest tree tells us something important. There must be a second part. A continuation. This can't be the whole thing. If there's a mind behind all this, then that mind, whoever or whatever it is, doesn't do things halfway. The same force that designed a bee's wings or a baby's heartbeat didn't make all of this just to let it disappear."
"So you think there's something after all this?"
Zach asked quietly.
I don't just think so, Alicia said. It's the only thing that makes sense.
The order we see here, the purpose in every detail, it points to something greater. Something lasting. You don't build a masterpiece only to throw it away. You don't craft beauty this deep and wisdom this precise just to let it all fade. There has to be an after.
There has to be a next chapter.
Zach thought again about all the life buzzing around him, all the things that seemed so ordinary a moment ago but now felt like clues, pieces of something bigger. So you're saying that all this design, all this structure is like a giant message?
Yes, Alicia nodded.
It's a message written in the language of nature. A message that says, this is not the end. Every flower that blooms, every creature that plays its role, is whispering the same truth, that life has meaning, that it was made on purpose, and that something greater is waiting beyond what we can see to a greater truth. A greater life. Just like a letter tells you there's a writer, creation tells you there's a creator. And justice, purpose and love, those are the signatures he leaves behind. Zach didn't answer right away.
But something in his posture had changed.
The burden he carried, the weight of doubt, the need for control had lightened. The garden buzzed around them, unchanged. But inside Zach, a shift had begun. And in that seeing, belief was quietly being born. For the first time, Zach looked at the garden not just with his eyes, but with his heart. He didn't fully understand it yet, but he felt it. A small sense of trust, like a tiny light, began to grow inside him. Chapter 4, A Glimpse of Beauty That Doesn't Fade. As they continued their journey, Zach and Alicia reached a wide open meadow that looked like something out of a dream. The sky was bright and blue, the sun was shining gently, and the entire field was bursting with colorful flowers. Reds, purples, yellows, whites, they stretched as far as the eye could see, gently swaying in the breeze like dancers moving in slow motion. There were so many different kinds of flowers, that it looked like nature had painted the whole field with a giant brush. Their scents filled the air, blending together into one amazing smell, sweet, fresh and calming. The gentle wind carried it all around them, like an invisible blanket. Zach stopped walking. He didn't say anything at first. He just stood still, staring at the breathtaking scene. For a moment, he forgot all his doubts and questions. It was just too beautiful to ignore.
Wow, he finally whispered, his voice soft with amazement.
This is incredible. I've never seen anything like it. Alicia smiled. It really is. Zach didn't take his eyes off the flowers.
But it's also kind of sad, he added quietly.
Because none of this is going to last. These flowers will wilt. The colors will fade. The breeze will stop. Everything will eventually vanish. It's like a dream you don't want to wake up from, but you know you will. Alicia nodded, her tone thoughtful.
And that's exactly the point, Zach.
The fact that it doesn't last forever is part of what makes it so powerful. But it's also a clue, like a little message from something bigger. Zach looked over at him. A clue? To what? Alicia pointed toward the field.
Let me ask you something.
Imagine an amazing artist. Someone who pours all their time, heart and talent into painting a masterpiece. They choose every color carefully, they focus on every little detail. And once it's finally finished, they just take the painting and toss it into a fire. Would that make any sense to you? Zach shook his head.
No way.
That would be a waste. Why would anyone destroy something they put so much effort into? Exactly, Alicia said. Or think about a musician who writes a beautiful love song, something full of feeling and meaning, and then deletes it forever after playing it once. Why would someone do that? We don't usually create something beautiful just to destroy it. Zach's eyebrows lowered. He was thinking hard now. Alicia went on, that's how I see this world, Zach. These moments of beauty, this meadow, a sunset, a child's laugh, a heartfelt song, they aren't meaningless. They're too perfect, too touching, too moving to be just coincidence. And they don't exist just to fade and be forgotten. They're here to remind us of something greater, something beyond all this. They're giving us a little peek at a beauty that doesn't fade. A forever kind of beauty. Zach stared at the flowers again. This time they didn't just look pretty, they looked important.
It's like the world is showing off for a reason, he said slowly. But what reason?
To remind us of what's waiting, Alicia replied. Let me give you some examples from everyday life. He sat down on a nearby rock and motioned for Zach to join him. Think about watching a sunset, Alicia said. The colors, orange, pink, purple, they're so amazing you almost want to freeze time. But in just a few minutes, the sky gets dark. It's gone. And yet, it meant something, didn't it? It touched you.
Yes, Zach said.
I've stopped and watched sunsets before. It's weird how quiet they make you feel inside. Exactly, Alicia nodded.
Now think about a delicious meal.
Someone spends hours preparing it, seasoning, cooking, plating it just right. You sit down, take a bite, and it's amazing.
But no matter how great it tastes, it only lasts a few minutes.
Then it's gone. You're full and the plate is empty. Zach laughed a little.
That's true.
I've had meals that I wished would last forever.
Right, Alicia said.
And then there's music. Think about your favorite song. You play it and suddenly you feel something, happiness, sadness, hope. Maybe it gives you chills. But after a few minutes, it's over. You hit replay just to feel it again.
Yeah, Zach said with a nod.
Music can hit you right in the heart, even if it's only 3 minutes long. See the pattern? Alicia asked. These experiences, sunsets, food, music, even this meadow, they're intense, beautiful and short. And yet they leave you wanting more. That feeling of, I wish this could last forever, it's real. That feeling is trying to tell you something. Zach thought for a moment. Like maybe, it's pointing to something that does last forever.
Yes, Alicia said. That's the idea.
These moments are like little samples, tiny previews, of what eternal beauty and joy might be like. They make us feel something deep, because they come from a deeper place. And that's not by accident. He paused and added, you know how sometimes stores give you a free sample of a dessert or snack? It's just a bite, but if it's really good, you want to go buy the whole thing. That one bite tells you the full thing exists, and that it's worth looking for. Zach smiled. So you're saying all the beauty in the world is like a sample of something bigger? Exactly, Alicia said. A sample of something perfect, permanent and infinite. A beauty that never fades. A joy that doesn't end. A kind of love and peace that this world can only hint at. The wind blew gently through the meadow again, stirring the tall grass and carrying the scent of flowers past their noses. Zach breathed in deeply. I don't know what it is, he said, but something about all of this makes me feel homesick. Like I'm missing a place I've never even been to. Alicia looked at him warmly. Maybe that place is real. Maybe you were made for it. Zach didn't answer.
But something inside him was waking up, like a small part of him that had been asleep for a long time, was finally beginning to stir.
Chapter 5, The Never-Ending Echo. As Zach and Alicia continued their journey, the well-worn trail opened unexpectedly, bringing them to a place that stole Zach's breath, not with grandeur, but with an almost tangible serenity. Before them stood a house of worship, humble in its unassuming form, yet it exuded a peace so profound it was deeply moving. It wasn't perched precariously on a cliff face, nor did it shimmer with any overt magical light. Still, there was an undeniable quality to its presence, an unspoken invitation that stirred a nascent sense of awe in both of them. The building was simple, its lines clean and unadorned. It felt simultaneously peaceful and potent, like a crucible where something of immense spiritual significance had once occurred, leaving an indelible mark on the very air they breathe. Zach found himself rooted to the spot, his gaze drawn to the way the light played across the ancient weathered surfaces. Near the modest entrance, a small sign hovered. It wasn't fashioned from common wood or metal, Zach noted with a growing sense of wonder. Instead, it shimmered with an ethereal quality, appearing as if woven from solidified light and fractured crystal, its message perhaps not in words but in the feeling it evoked. A peculiar sensation, unfamiliar yet compelling, settled over Zach. He couldn't articulate why, but a conviction resonated deep within him. He was standing on sacred ground, a place that mattered not just in the confines of their world but somehow on a cosmic scale. He felt small yet strangely connected. He let the silence stretch, his eyes tracing the outline of the structure against the sky. Finally he broke the quiet, his voice a little rough.
"It's peaceful," he conceded, kicking lightly at a loose pebble.
Then a familiar skepticism surfaced.
"But what's so special about this particular place, Alicia?"
"It's just a building, isn't it? Stones and wood. Aren't all places fundamentally equal?" Alicia turned to him, a gentle understanding in their eyes. Sometimes a person can enter a space and immediately feel a deep sense of peace, a kind of spiritual stillness or even an uplifting metaphysical tension, something that stirs the soul in a profound, almost otherworldly way. Yet in other places that same person may feel the complete opposite, weighed down, anxious or depressed, with a heavy negative spiritual atmosphere that seems to drain rather than nourish. These responses often have little to do with the physical features of the place, and more to do with the unseen emotional, historical or spiritual energy the environment carries. Every soul is precious, Zach, uniquely crafted and infinitely valued, yes. In that sense you are right, the potential for holiness resides within each being. But think of it like this, among siblings in a loving family, some may naturally develop virtues that shine brighter, serving as an example. They aren't loved more, but their qualities are recognized. Some people are born with beautiful qualities, noble character traits that seem to come naturally from their very nature. Others cultivate goodness through conscious effort, growth and inner struggle. Both are meaningful paths. Still, it's not easy for a person to accept this truth, that human beings are not all equal in every dimension, materially or spiritually.
But when you think about it logically, it becomes clear.
Just as people differ physically, some are taller, healthier, or more attractive, so too do people differ in moral and spiritual depth. Some individuals stand out with their wisdom, patience, or inner light. This is one way to understand the exceptional nature of messengers of God. Their spiritual and moral excellence wasn't just random, it was part of a broader plan, reflecting a higher wisdom. And when it comes to justice, the tests of life are not one size fits all. They're tailored. A person who is poor, vulnerable, or struggling is not expected to carry the same burdens as someone who is wealthy, influential, or capable. The questions they face in this life are calibrated to their circumstances. For someone weak or oppressed, the test may be simpler. For someone privileged or powerful, the expectations are greater. That is how divine justice operates, not by making everyone identical, but by holding each person accountable according to their unique capacity and situation. Our Creator, in His infinite wisdom and compassion, often sends special souls to guide us, individuals of profound character, unwavering faith, and deep insight. This place, Alicia gestured with an open hand, matters not because of the inert stone and wood, but because it is intrinsically linked to one such soul. It's a place where prayers were offered that resonated through the fabric of existence, where profound truths were not just spoken but lived. That imbues it with a spiritual gravity, a weight that transcends its physical form. Zach furrowed his brow, considering this. He'd always believed in a kind of spiritual egalitarianism. Alicia continued, her voice soft but sure. Imagine a mother with 4 children. She loves them all with the fullness of her heart, equally and completely. Yet, one of them displays an extraordinary kindness from a young age, a maturity beyond their years, a moral compass that is unerring. Wouldn't that mother, while cherishing all her children, naturally point to that child and say to the others, "Look at your sibling. See their compassion, their integrity. Learn from their example"? It doesn't diminish her love for the others, in the slightest. It simply acknowledges that some are gifted to be guides, to illuminate the path. Alicia's gaze drifted back to the building, a soft reverence in their expression. This house is like a really good kid, the kind everyone admires. It's special because someone who lived here was incredibly spiritual and close to God. Their prayers weren't just words, They were like a powerful flood of love and a deep desire for good things for everyone. That's what makes this place holy, not how it looks but the amazing spiritual feelings that soaked into the building from what happened inside. Places where love, peace and harmony prevail have a powerful effect on the human soul. They radiate positive feelings and uplifting energy. These environments soothe the heart, calm the mind and nourish the spirit. In contrast, places marked by violence, war, torture, or mass suffering carry a different kind of weight. They seem to echo with grief, trauma, and despair, often leaving visitors with a deep sense of unease or sorrow, even if no words are spoken. The emotional imprint of what has occurred there lingers in the atmosphere, affecting anyone sensitive enough to perceive it. Even those who view the world purely through a material lens, those who do not subscribe to spiritual beliefs, cannot deny the emotional impact of certain spaces. The warmth of a peaceful home, the comfort of genuine friendship, or the power of love and sincerity within a family, these are universally felt truths. Their effect on the human spirit transcends logic, language, and belief. They are real, and they leave lasting impressions on the heart. What makes it even more special is that it's a place where people come together to pray. Think about all those voices singing and praying together, all those shared hopes and honest requests. It's like all those experiences are woven together to make the place even more sacred. When people lift their spirits together and connect with God as a group, the holiness of the place doesn't just stay the same, it gets stronger. It becomes like a shining light for anyone looking for comfort and a feeling of connection. A thoughtful silence fell, broken only by the whisper of the wind. Then Alicia's eyes met Zach's again, a new intensity in their depths.
Let me ask you this, Zach.
Consider someone you know or can imagine, a person who embodies kindness. They rescue stray animals, offer comfort to the grieving, and are always the first to lend a hand, expecting nothing in return. One day this person sees a tiny fledgling bird, fallen from its nest, parched and struggling for life. Would they ignore it, deeming it too insignificant? Zach didn't hesitate, the answer obvious.
No, of course not.
They'd help it immediately. Precisely, Alicia affirmed with a slight nod. Now imagine that same deeply compassionate person hears you, someone they cherish, someone they hold dear, calling out in profound anguish, desperately begging for help. Would they turn away? Would they hesitate? Zach shook his head, a sense of where Alicia was leading dawning on him. No. They'd run to help me. They'd drop everything. Exactly, Alicia said, their voice now imbued with a quiet power, their eyes locking with Zach's. So now Zach, try to conceive of a being, the very source of all compassion, all power, all knowing. Imagine this being hears the most sincere, the most pure, the most selfless and heartfelt prayer ever uttered. A prayer not for personal gain, but for the guidance, healing, and enlightenment of all creation. Do you truly believe such a being, whose very essence is love and mercy, would ignore such a monumental plea? Zach paused, the sounds of the surroundings fading as he contemplated the immense scale of Alicia's question. The gentle light from the stones seemed to pulse in rhythm with his own heartbeat. He shook his head again, slower this time, a profound understanding beginning to bloom within him. No. I guess not. It wouldn't make sense.
Not just guess not, Alicia said firmly, yet with an undercurrent of profound tenderness.
It is an impossibility for such a perfect prayer, offered with such flawless intention, to go unanswered. It's akin to planting the most viable seed in the most fertile soil, nurtured with perfect light and water. The blossom, the fruit, the result must manifest. That prayer, Zach, wasn't merely a hopeful wish cast into the void. It was a spiritual law being invoked, a divine promise being called into glorious, vibrant motion. And this place remembers. Zach leaned against a stone, trying to understand it all.
But how can we know the result is coming?
How can we trust that the answer is real? Alicia smiled softly.
Let me give you a few examples.
He sat down and pointed to the ground. Think about when you plant a seed. You water it. You give it sunlight. You don't see anything happen at first. But you know something's going on inside the soil. The seed is doing what it's supposed to do. You don't dig it up after 2 days and say, it's not working. You wait. You trust the process. And one day it sprouts. Zach nodded. So the prayer is like a seed. Just because we haven't seen the answer yet, doesn't mean it's not coming. Alicia responded, when a child asks a doctor for medicine, the doctor doesn't simply obey the request. Instead, the doctor uses their knowledge and judgment. They might give the exact medicine the child asks for, or they might prescribe something even better, something the child doesn't know to ask for. Or if the doctor sees that the child doesn't actually need any treatment, they may give nothing at all. But in every case, the doctor's response is based on care, wisdom, and a full understanding of what the child truly needs, not just what the child thinks they need. Alicia continued. And here's another one. Imagine you're walking home from school and you get lost. Your phone dies. You're cold, it's getting dark and you're scared. You yell out for help.
But not just to anyone, you know someone trustworthy is nearby.
Someone who's always kind. Do you think your call will go unnoticed? Zach shook his head again.
No way.
That person would come looking.
That's how this prayer works, Alicia said.
It's the loudest, clearest, most powerful call ever made, for the help of all humanity. It didn't vanish into the sky. It echoed. And the one it was directed to is the most caring, most just, and most powerful of all. The response isn't just likely, it's guaranteed. He paused and added, that prayer is a promise that resurrection, the life after this one, is real. It's not just a belief we hope for. It's something that's been promised in response to the greatest act of devotion ever made. Zach sat down beside him, quiet for a moment. Then he said, so it's not about just being hopeful. It's about trusting something that's already been set into motion. Exactly, Alicia nodded. That prayer was so in tune with truth and justice, it became part of the universe's design. Like gravity, like time, it's now part of how the world works. It will happen. Zach looked out at the horizon. The view from the cliff seemed endless, like it stretched into another world. And we're just waiting for the day when we'll see the answer fully, he said quietly. Alicia smiled. Yes. But we already see signs of it everywhere, through the beauty of life, the longing in our hearts, and the logic in our minds. That prayer still echoes. And it pulls us closer to the day when everything will be made clear. Chapter 6, Earth, the Big Practice Field. As the first soft light of dawn slowly brightened the sky, painting it with pastel shades of pink, orange, and gold, Zach and Alicia found themselves in the middle of an incredible scene. The whole world seemed to be waking up together. Fields rustled with the movement of fresh green shoots pushing up from the soil. Birds flew into the air in perfect V-shapes, singing their morning songs. Bright flowers opened up their petals, as if they had been waiting for this exact moment. It all felt like a beautiful performance led by an invisible conductor, a silent guide organizing the rhythm of nature. Zach stood quietly for a while, completely taken in by the view. Then he whispered, it's like the world is practicing. Like everyone, plants, animals, everything, is doing a warm-up for something big. Alicia smiled. You're seeing it exactly right, Zach, she said, her voice calm but full of meaning.
That's what this world really is.
A rehearsal. A practice field. A training ground. Everything here, birth, growth, struggle, even death, is part of a preparation process. It's not the final destination. It's just the beginning. Zach tilted his head. You mean like life is a school?
Yes, Alicia nodded.
Exactly. A school with lessons in patience, kindness, love, forgiveness, and trust. Every experience we go through, whether it's joyful, painful, confusing, or exciting, is teaching us something. And all of these lessons are preparing our souls for the real life, the eternal life that comes after this one. Zach was quiet again, watching the flowers sway in the wind.
So dying isn't the end?
It's not like the lights go off and that's it. Alicia looked at Zach and began to explain a story, one filled with wonder and quiet depth. Have you ever heard the parable of the twin babies? She asked, her voice calm. Zach listened. In the warm, dark comfort of their mother's womb, two unborn twins stirred gently. Their world was soft, silent, and enclosed. One twin turned to the other and asked, "Do you ever wonder, do you believe there's life after birth?" The second twin replied without hesitation, "Absolutely. There must be something beyond this place. We're not here by accident. I believe we're being prepared for something greater, something we can't yet understand." The first twin scoffed, "That's absurd. Everything we know is here, this warm floating world. We're safe, we're fed. What more could there be?" The second twin imagined aloud, "Maybe there's light out there, real light, not shadows. Maybe we'll walk with our legs, eat with our mouths, hear new sounds and see new colors." The first twin laughed. "Walk? Eat? Ridiculous. The umbilical cord gives us all we need. If that ends, we die. This is all there is." But the second twin remained hopeful. "Just because we haven't experienced anything beyond, doesn't mean it isn't real. Maybe our limbs are being formed now because we'll use them out there. Maybe our eyes are for seeing something beyond this darkness. Everything we are developing here must have a purpose." The first twin shook his tiny head.
"But no one ever came back from birth."
"If there was something beyond, someone would have returned. Birth is the end. After that, only silence and separation." The second twin grew quiet. "I believe we'll finally see the one who has been caring for us all along, our mother. She's the reason we exist." The first twin chuckled. "Mother? You believe in some invisible being who loves us? Where is she? If she's real, why don't we see her?" "Because we are inside her," the second twin said gently.
"She surrounds us.
We live through her. We hear her heartbeat when all is still. She nourishes us, protects us, even if we can't see her. Just because you can't touch her doesn't mean she's not real." "If I can't see her, she doesn't exist," said the first. "But you don't see gravity either," the second replied. "You don't see love, but you know it exists. Sometimes you have to be still enough to feel what you can't see. I believe she is waiting, and when we're born, we'll understand this life was just the beginning." Alicia looked at Zach and paused.
"This story isn't just about babies, it's about us.
Just as a baby in the womb can't imagine the world after birth, we, living here, struggle to imagine life after death."
But not seeing something doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
She continued, "Think about this, a baby in the womb has eyes though it hasn't yet seen light. It has ears though it hears only muffled sounds. It has a tongue, even though it hasn't tasted solid food. It has legs, even though it hasn't walked. Every part of its body is being prepared for a life it doesn't yet understand, but will soon experience. In the same way, we humans are born into this world with deep spiritual faculties that point to something beyond. We long for eternity, ache for justice, seek unconditional love, search for peace and meaning, needs that nothing in this world can fully satisfy. Just as a baby's body points to the next world it will be born into, these inner longings are signs, preparations, for a greater world we are meant to enter." Zach was silent. The truth of it settled over him like soft rain. Maybe death wasn't the end. Maybe it was the delivery into something fuller. Something brighter. Something real. And just maybe, all the signs had been there all along, waiting to be noticed. Alicia continued, "Think about a graduation ceremony. High school ends, but your real life, the big goals, the meaningful work, the deeper purpose, that starts after. Death is kind of like that graduation moment. You leave one stage and move into something greater. Something you've been preparing for all along." Alicia walked slowly as he spoke, pointing at things around them to explain. "Think about learning a new skill," he said. "Like learning guitar. You don't sound great on the first day. You go through a bunch of awkward stages, your fingers hurt, you mess up chords, you get frustrated.
But all of that practice shapes you.
It prepares you for the moment when you finally get on stage and play confidently in front of others. This life is that messy practice. The big concert is what comes next." Zach nodded slowly. "So this life is about learning how to be better, not just do better." "Exactly," Alicia said.
Now think about the seasons.
Spring, summer, fall, winter. Every year the trees grow, lose their leaves, and look dead in the winter.
But then spring comes again.
Flowers bloom. Trees wake up. It's a cycle. Nature doesn't really die, it just transitions. Our lives work like that too. Zack squinted at the sky. You mean we're part of that same cycle?
Right, Alicia replied.
But for us the next stage isn't just another spring, it's something much more amazing. It's eternal life. And just like winter makes us appreciate spring, this temporary life, with all its struggles, makes us ready to value the eternal life that comes after. Alicia paused, then gave another example. Imagine you're part of a school play. You go to every rehearsal, memorize your lines, practice your timing. The real performance might only last an hour, but all the work you did before is what makes it shine. Life is like those rehearsals. You may feel nervous, confused, or even mess up your lines sometimes. But all of it is getting you ready for the final stage, where the curtains open, and everything finally makes sense.
Zack laughed. I remember freezing up during my first rehearsal.
I forgot all my lines.
But by the time we performed in front of the parents, I nailed it.
Exactly, Alicia said, grinning. Growth takes time. And just like that play, your soul needs time to learn how to handle responsibility, love, purpose, and how to keep hope alive. Then she added one more. Think of life like downloading a huge complex video game, Alicia said. You click download and it begins 10%, 32%, 74% slowly, piece by piece. You can't play until the whole thing is finished. Our lives work the same way. Each year, each hardship, each joy adds another part to our download. And death? That's when the download hits 100%. That's when the preparation ends, and the real experience begins, like pressing play on a game you've waited so long for. It's just like a baby in the womb. Once its development is complete, it can no longer stay there. The womb has served its purpose, and birth becomes inevitable. In the same way, when a person's journey is fulfilled, when their questions have been answered, their destiny lived, their test completed, this world can no longer contain them. They must move on to the next realm, the one they've been quietly preparing for all along. Think of downloading a big video game or movie, he said. You click download and it starts loading. 10%, 32%, 74%. You have to wait. You can't play until the file is complete. Our lives are kind of like that. Every year, every experience adds a little more to our download. Death. That's the moment when the download finishes. That's when you finally start playing the full version of the life you were preparing for. Zack laughed in surprise. Okay, that one actually makes sense. You're saying we're not even in the full version of life yet, we're still loading.
That's right, Alicia nodded. And that's why it matters how we live.
Every choice we make, every act of kindness, every lesson learned, every mistake we try to fix, it's all shaping who we become in the next stage. So, Zack said, thinking aloud, if this world is just the start, then death isn't a scary ending.
It's just a door.
Yes, Alicia replied, looking ahead as the morning light grew stronger. It's the doorway to the real adventure. The life that doesn't end. And everything we do here is helping us get ready to walk through it with confidence. Zack looked back at the waking world behind them, flowers blooming, birds rising, colors glowing. For the first time, he didn't just see the world as a place full of temporary beauty. He saw it as a classroom. A stage. A download in progress. And for the first time, the idea of forever didn't feel like something far away. It felt like something he was already training for, one step, one lesson at a time. Chapter 7, The Never-Fading Memory Bank of Actions, Thoughts and Feelings. The road twisted higher and higher, until Zack and Alicia stood before a massive mountain that seemed to touch the clouds. It felt ancient, like it had been there since the beginning of time. Alicia led Zack into a deep cave, carved into the heart of the mountain. Inside was something Zack couldn't have imagined in his wildest dreams. It was a library. But not like any library he'd seen before. The place stretched out endlessly in every direction. It felt as if it had no walls, no ceiling, no end. The books on the shelves were enormous and glowing softly, as if lit from within. Some sparkled like starlight. Others shimmered like moonlight trapped inside glass. As Zach and Alicia stepped in, some of the books began to open by themselves. And they weren't filled with ordinary words. Instead, the pages came alive, like holograms. Scenes popped out in 3D, people doing everyday things, speaking, laughing, making choices. Along with the images came feelings, moments of joy, sadness, regret, excitement. The air around each book seemed filled with emotion. Zach stared in awe.
What is this place?
Alicia's voice dropped to a soft, respectful tone. This is the universe's memory bank. Every single thing a person has ever done, thought, felt, or intended, no matter how big or small, is recorded here. Every choice, every feeling, every good deed and every mistake. Nothing is missed. It's all written here. Zach looked overwhelmed. Even thoughts? Even stuff no one else ever saw?
Yes, Alicia nodded.
Even the quiet choices in your heart that no one else ever noticed. Imagine it like your browser history, but for your entire life, including what you searched for in your soul. Zach raised his eyebrows. Okay, that's intense.
But why keep all of this?
What's the point of recording everything, if it's never going to be reviewed? It's like a school keeping detailed grade reports forever, but never handing out a final report card. What's the purpose? Alicia smiled.
The record shows your whole story, not just the bad moments but the growth that followed.
And while keeping records suggests accountability, it is God's promise, not just moral logic, that assures us this day will come. He, the most just, has decreed a day where all things will be brought to light, and not a single deed will be forgotten. Not to embarrass anyone. Not to shame.
But to make things right.
To show the full picture of every life, and to make sure true justice is done. Think about school, Alicia said, turning to face Zach. All year long, your teachers keep track of your tests, quizzes, and homework. Every little thing adds up to your final grade. Imagine if your school kept track of all of that, but then never gave you a report card. Wouldn't that be weird? Zach nodded.
That'd be messed up.
I'd feel like all the work didn't matter. Exactly, Alicia said. This library is the ultimate report card system, one that captures not just what you did but also why you did it. The thoughts and feelings behind your actions matter just as much as the actions themselves. Alicia paused and then added, picture this. Imagine you're a photographer, and you've taken thousands of pictures throughout your life. You back them up on a hard drive. You label them, organize them, protect them. Why? Because one day you're going to look back at them, maybe even share them with others. You don't save them for no reason. You save them because memories matter. The good ones, the hard ones, they all help tell your story. This library? It's the story of every soul. Zach was listening closely now. Alicia gave another example. Say someone makes a mistake, a big one. They feel terrible. They try to fix it. They change. In school, that's like messing up early in the semester, but working hard to improve by the end. And in life, those efforts are recorded too. They matter. The record shows your whole story, not just the bad moment but the growth that came afterward. Alicia pointed to a glowing book, with floating images of people helping others, smiling, crying, giving gifts, or turning away from arguments.
Let me put it this way, she said.
Imagine a teacher who memorized 300,000 books, and could perfectly rewrite them all word for word, if they were ever lost. If I told you that the same teacher could also rewrite a single page they had once written, would you doubt them? Zach chuckled. Of course not. Correct, Alicia said. So, if the one who created this entire universe with galaxies and oceans can remember and organize all of that, why would anyone doubt that he can remember you? She gave another example. Think about a school principal who can cancel classes, hold assemblies, and send announcements to everyone in a second. If a hallway is blocked, do you really think they can't get it cleared? Of course they can. Power over big things includes power over small things. So when it comes to the creator of the universe, it's completely logical to believe he can bring people back, remember every detail, and deliver perfect justice. Alicia paused, then added one more.
What about the school bell? She said.
You hear it and instantly students pour into the hallways. Everyone gathers for class or lunch or an assembly. Now imagine a huge crowd, millions of people scattered across time. One powerful call, one divine bell, and everyone is gathered again for the final assembly. That's what resurrection is like. It's not only possible, it's promised. Zack blinked. Okay. That makes way more sense than I expected. Alicia's voice grew serious again. Zack, to deny this, to say that our lives aren't being recorded or that we won't one day face a review, it would be like pretending that none of your school tests matter. Or that your digital footprint doesn't exist. But deep down, we know that actions have consequences, and memories don't just disappear. She looked around the glowing library.
This place isn't about fear.
It's about fairness. It's about making sure every story is told, every tear counted, every quiet effort rewarded. The good, the bad, the hidden, it all matters. And the one who records it all will be the one who judges it with perfect knowledge, perfect kindness, and perfect justice. Zack didn't say anything for a while. He just looked at the glowing pages, each one telling a story, each one proving that nothing is truly forgotten. And in that moment, he realized something important. His life mattered. Every choice. Every moment. Even the ones no one else had seen. Chapter 8. The City That Never Ends, Where the Journey Really Begins. After all the hills they'd climbed, the forests they'd crossed, and the countless questions they had explored together, Zack and Alicia finally reached the highest point of their entire journey. When they stepped onto the final ledge of the mountain trail, both of them froze in place. Before them stood a city, but not like any city on Earth. It didn't just shine, it glowed, as if every building had its own light inside. The streets seemed to be made of gold, but it wasn't flashy. It was peaceful. Pure. The sky above had no sun and no moon, but it was full of light. There was no darkness anywhere. Everything felt safe, calm, and full of meaning. Zack whispered, "Whoa, is this real?" Alicia, standing beside him, didn't say anything at first. Her eyes were focused on the horizon where a huge crowd of people, countless souls, stood together, all facing the city gates. At the front of the crowd stood a figure, regal, powerful, peaceful, like a king or leader who didn't need to shout to be heard. When they finally spoke, their voice echoed through the entire space, strong, clear, and full of authority. The sound felt like it went straight to your heart. Alicia finally spoke, softly but full of understanding. "Zack," she said, "everything we've seen, the changing seasons, the gardens that bloom and fade, the silent records being kept, the questions about justice, the prayers from the mountaintop, it all leads here. This is what it was pointing to." Zack nodded, still unable to take his eyes off the golden city.
"So this is it?" "Yes," Alicia said. "But it's not just a destination.
It's a reminder. This life we've been living, it's like a movie. A hotel room. A school. It's important, yes. It teaches us, shapes us.
But it's not permanent."
She continued gently. "Think of it like saving up for something big. Maybe you're working a summer job so you can buy your first car. You skip parties, you don't go out as much, you cut back. It's not easy, but you know it'll be worth it in the end." Zack nodded.
"Yeah, I've had to do that."
"You don't see the reward right away, but you keep going." "Exactly," Alicia said. "This life is like that. The kindness you show, the struggles you go through, the temptations you resist, it's all part of saving up for something bigger. Something permanent." Then she added another example. Imagine watching your favorite movie. You're completely caught up in it. You feel what the characters feel. You forget everything around you. But eventually it ends. The credits roll, and you're back in your living room. That movie mattered. It gave you something. But it wasn't real life. This world is like that movie, real in some ways but temporary. What matters is where we go when it ends. Zack glanced at her, then looked back at the city, eyes misty. And this, he said, this is real life? This is forever, Alicia replied.
And it's not just a reward, it's home.
Zack wiped his eyes as Alicia kept explaining. Think of a caterpillar, she said. All it knows is crawling. It lives close to the ground, focused only on eating leaves.
But one day, everything changes.
It transforms into a butterfly. Suddenly it has wings, it can fly, and its world becomes much bigger.
That's what death is like, Zack.
It's not the end, it's a transformation. We go from crawling in the temporary world to flying into eternity. Zack's voice cracked as he said, I've seen enough. I believe. Alicia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Then this isn't the end of our journey, she said softly. It's the beginning, the real beginning. The part that doesn't end. They stood quietly for a while, watching the crowd move slowly toward the wide open gates of the city. As they took their next steps, something inside Zack felt different. His heart felt lighter, not because the questions were all gone, but because he finally had something to hold on to, hope. And not a weak kind of hope. A strong, steady, joyful kind of hope, the kind you get when you know you're finally heading in the right direction. Alicia glanced at him and smiled. Have you ever been on a long road trip? She asked. Zack laughed a little. Plenty. Tired, hungry, cramped in the back seat. You just want to stretch out and sleep forever. And then you finally pull into your driveway, she said. You toss your bag down, sink into your bed or couch and think, finally, I'm home. That's what this city is. It's the place your soul has been trying to reach all along. Zack nodded. And everything else, the long trip, the detours, the breakdowns, it was all worth it just to get here. As they neared the gates, hand in hand with new understanding, Alicia added one final thought. This journey we've taken, it's not just ours. Every human heart is walking it. Everyone is looking for meaning, fairness, love that doesn't end. And the truth is, the signs have always been there. In every flower that blooms and fades. In every wrong that cries out to be made right. In every part of us that hopes there's something more. Zack nodded again, his voice steady now.
And this is it.
Something more. They stepped toward the gates together, ready to enter the place where beauty never fades, justice is complete, and every soul finally feels what it's been searching for all along. Zack and Alicia's journey is more than a story. It's a reminder that behind the short moments of this life, there is a greater reality. That our choices matter. That love, justice, and truth are not temporary, they're eternal. That the city of gold isn't just a place, it's a promise. And it's waiting. For all of us.